A flexible spine can equal injury. It can equal an unsupported spine, and it can equal an increased risk of injury. What I'm going to do in this tutorial is explain why and hopefully give you a better idea of how to build a healthy back and as a means of getting out of lower back pain. If you're struggling with lower back pain and you do want some help, please do click the link below, go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain online and face-to-face consultations and coaching, and what we'll be able to do is set you up with a plan, understand your lower back pain, and over the period of coaching be able to get you out of that lower back pain. So how can a flexible spine equal an increased risk of injury or an increased risk of lower back pain? It's the opposite to what is said out there. If you've got a more flexible spine, it means you've got a much healthier spine. And that can be true, but there is a caveat to that your muscles need to be able to do their job properly. So let's take a very flexible spine. So what is a very flexible spine? It's one that can twist, it's one that can extend. When we stretch, we've got large ranges of movement in the spine, and we roll round, and we've got large ranges of movement in the spine as well. Now, how can that equal an increased risk of injury or an increased risk of lower back pain? Well, what it can mean, if the muscles aren't doing their job properly, it can mean greater instability because there is so much movement in the spine. The muscles need to be able to control that additional range of movement. So if you are just building extra range of movement and not building the muscular control of the spine, then you are at greater risk of injury to the spine. Now again, this doesn't mean that everyone with a flexible spine is going to have an injury, because it depends whether the muscles are doing the job that they need to do, and it also depends whether the person is putting themselves in a position to increase their risk of injury as well, because the flexibility of the spine is a wider open door to allow injury to come in. So what we need to be able to do is shut that door, and the way that we shut that door is by building in things like greater stability through the spine. So again, getting in the right position and being able to hold and be stable. So when we come into that position, when we lift the arm and the leg up, what the body is able to do is it's able to hold the position and heighten the activity of the necessary muscles. Because if those muscles don't work, when we go to that end range, we're going to be compromised. And that's what we have to think about when we're doing exercise and when we are increasing flexibility in the spine. Because there is nothing wrong with increasing flexibility to the spine. What is wrong is if you increase flexibility but don't allow the muscles to control that movement and be in charge of the position of the spine. Because a lot of inflexible spines is a result of instability and the body recognizing that it doesn't like this position. So it just locks everything down, holds everything tight, and creates perceived stiffness. But what it's actually doing is just locking everything down to protect it. So when we are increasing the flexibility, what we need to be able to do is bring greater stability to the area, which will then increase the flexibility, but in a controlled manner. Now for the inflexible spine. So the inflexible spine doesn't mean it's in a healthier state, as I've just described, because at the extreme end of a flexible spine, it can be unstable because there's so much movement there. There's potentially movement between individual vertebrae on top of the discs. There's potentially a lot of movement, as I've mentioned, because the muscles aren't holding down the spine. And on the other end of the scale, in a very stiff spine, what that's telling us is that the muscles are just locking down and holding everything because it perceives that there's a problem. So if we aren't able to rotate the spine very well, or maybe we've got imbalances from left to right, that's our body telling us that it doesn't like the position and it wants to be opened out. But But the key to both of these situations, if we've got an inflexible spine or if we've got a flexible spine, is the muscle control, is the motor control, is the stability. So it's getting the muscles to heighten their activity at the right time. So as we open out the range of movement with various stretches or mobilizing exercises, what we need to be able to do is build the musculature on top of that, so that when we go into these extreme positions, the muscles are able to hold the position of the spine in a sensible way that it's not going to cause it a problem. So we need to be able to think about it in that way. So what we don't need is an inflexible spine. What we don't need is a completely flexible spine, but what we do need is a spine that can move but has good stability, motor control throughout our movement. And that's what we need to be able to build. So if we are getting pain from stiffness, and if we are getting pain from too much flexibility, then what we need to do is build the control and the stability around the spine to be able to allow it to have the greater control, which will then reduce the reduce the tightness around the spine, but it will also control the movement of the spine, and that's what gives it the protection that you need. Many thanks for watching this tutorial. As I mentioned at the start, if you have lower back pain and you want help to get out of it, please do hit the link below, go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain online and face-to-face consultation and coaching. If you've liked the video, if you've enjoyed the content, please do hit the like button. If you've learned something new, hit the thanks button. If you've got a comment or a question, again, please leave that below. And if you want to watch more tutorials like this, please do hit the subscribe button and the bell icon.